Hello, BookTube. Here for Friday reads, and it's been a good reading week for me. I still reading Book of Job from Robert Alter. This is translation from the Hebrew, the original Hebrew, and on chapter 32. Excuse me. One of the things about myself is that I don't do daily devotional reading, which is I've read several books about Bible studies and about how to do Bible studies, how to do daily devotionals, but I don't stick with daily devotionals every day, and I don't pray every day. Even though I'm a Christian, I still don't do that. I don't know what it is. I've never been able to catch on to make it a habit of daily devotionals. The Book of Job. So I was enjoying this, and probably will continue it. There's pick it up and again kind of dip in and out of it several times. There is 42 chapters, so let's see. I have 10 chapters to go. Let's see how far I go. Maybe at the end of this month. I'm not sure. Next is I finished this book. This Diana Galvadon. This is the Exile. The spirits is Jamie's side of the story. It's the first time I read Diana Galvadon's Outlander novel. This is a graphic novel, and as you can see, this is according to her, this is 1/3 of her book in the Outlander series. And the first book is called Outlander, of course. The next one's Dragonfly and Amber, then Voyager, then Drums of Autumn, The Fiery Cross, Breath of Snow and Ashes, and An Echo in the Bones. This is the last one. So, and the story goes along with Jamie returning to Scotland as a long absence, and he comes across this woman who is being seduced by this British soldier. He kills a British soldier, takes this mystery woman and to the great hall where Jamie doesn't want to go because of his background, because he doesn't want to be loyal to this clan. But he goes ahead and does it anyway, becomes loyal to the clan. And this woman is from the future of 1946. And it just jumped in. All of a sudden, just came in. Let's see. I think it's like 1747, I believe, when they are. Yes, just a moment. I think it's, yeah. And she was a nurse, and she has a boyfriend back in 1946 named Frank, and I believe it's 1747 is the correct date on here where she jumps into. Oh, it's 1743. It's right here, 1743. And she's been questioned about where she came from, and she can't get answers. Jamie and this lady, let me see, I've forgotten her name at the moment. It's kind of an unusual name. See if I can find it real quick. And Jamie and this woman get married. And she wants to return back to 1946, and but ends up going back to Jamie instead of returning. He wants her to, okay, go ahead and go back. So she goes to what they call the Stones to try to go back, but she's torn between the lifestyle she used to live and the lifestyle she is now in, 1743. So you can see it's just the beginning of the book Outlander. So it was pretty good graphic novel. I read this in like a day and a half. The next one I finished is called Question of Perspective. On my Goodreads page, I had written reviews, and I got an email from a lady who started this this company called Book Sirens, and she said, "Oh, you want to do a review and get advanced copies?" I said, "Oh, sure, I can do that." Because she had read my reviews on Goodreads, and especially the Soren Kierkegaard one on Philosopher of the Heart. So I put in my profile on the book sirens, picked what books I wanted to read, and some books came out. What genres I wanted to read, excuse me. This one is called Question of Perspective. It's written by a gentleman by the name of Daniel Montez. I think I got the name right, Morones. He is a litigation attorney and living in New York City with 2 cats, a wife, and a couple children. The reason I mentioned that he's a litigation attorney and that he has 2 cats is that follows into a story called A Question of Perspective. Here's this synopsis of the story. After his only friend John Monte disappears without a trace, Dave Randall further entrenches himself in the humdrum life of an unenthusiastic lawyer. But once he begins to understand what happened, he embarks on a journey to uncover the deeper meanings and implications. And so I read the book in a couple of days on an e-reader. If you want to see the physical copy of the book, you can go to my Instagram page, where I have over 300 posts and have 800 followers on my Instagram page. And also you can go to my Goodreads page and read the review there, and read the also see the cover of the book, what it looks like. This is a joke. This author's first novel. In just a moment, let me get some more light in here. It's kind of got a little dark. There we go. That's better. The problem with the book is that it has a long prologue in which the main character, David Randall, has been chastised by the judge for not having a discovery presented to the judge for this case, the litigation case. And so David Randall says, "Okay, judge, we'll do that in 2 days." And the judge says, "Fine." The first chapter deals with David Randall interviewing for a job. He's the 3rd in the class of his law school, over 600, and he goes and he applies for this job, which he calls a mediocre law firm. And this person is dealing with litigation of insurance companies, and so they have to defend the other people. The problem with the story is the narrative, because it's the whole structure of the story. The narrative structure of the story jumps back and forth in time. You'll have an incident where The chapter starts out with, "Oh, John is missing," and it's told in first person. "Oh, John is missing. I couldn't find him for days." And the next paragraph, he's in the copy room. And then several paragraphs later, David Randall goes to John's apartment to find him because he's been missing for 2 days. And it goes back and forth like this. And as you know, John appears, John doesn't appear. There's a lot of backbiting. There's a lot of gossiping going on in the law firm. There's which doesn't make any sense. The first half of the book deals with a lot of legalese, so someone who's not very familiar with the law can get very confused. And apparently, a person that is graduated third in class in law school is also confused because he doesn't know anything about the law when it shows up. A senior attorney tells David Randall, here's some papers, go write a discovery. And David Randall doesn't know how to do it. And apparently, the software programs on the computer doesn't have a template for discovery. And they generally do in law school, because I've taken law courses, and there it is right there. All you gotta do is fill it in. It's extremely easy. There's so there's a lot of, like I said, it jumps back and forth in the narrative. There's David Randall, then all of a sudden David Randall sees John, and John tells David that he is God and that you can be one. And so David Randall gives up the law practice and decides to find himself. Well, good luck with that. And it's like, and it totally doesn't make any sense. The plot, there's no plot, there's no structure. And to the story, the characters, is like, okay. And it's similar to Fight Club in a way, as the main character in Fight Club, the book Fight Club, it has all these things with, material things. And then this person comes to him and says, okay, you need to give all that up and, do something else and find yourself. And it's similar to that in that way. But the only thing that this story, Question of Perspective, shows is that David Randall has just graduated third in his class at law school. And that's it. There's nothing concrete, there's nothing substantial about the the law firm, about why he needs to give up, why David Randall needs to give up something in order to go find himself. There's nothing there. There's, I can understand the brand new car, got another car, got a swanky apartment, jewels, got all these material things, but it doesn't show that in the book. It doesn't explain that. It doesn't, and it totally doesn't make any sense. This book, actually, Question of Perspective, received 4.4 stars on Goodreads. Well, this tells you something, that people on Goodreads don't know how to read. No, write reviews. I gave this book 2 stars. The next book was the biography of James Monroe, in which last Friday I told you about overall narrative of James Monroe. And what I told you is that what I what I said only covered 32%, 30% of the entire book. And then it goes into James Monroe's becoming Secretary of State, Secretary of War under James Madison. And then you have the War of 1812. You have the Seminoles attacking Georgia, which doesn't make any sense because Florida State and Georgia are two different college football conferences. It doesn't make any sense at all. Florida State being the ACC and Georgia being the SEC, because they haven't met in college football in decades. So you have that, and you have Panic of 1819, and you have when James Monroe becomes president, the 5th president of the United States. You have a Panic of 1819, you have the Missouri Compromise, you have Massachusetts wanting to become a state, Maine citizens wanted to become a state because they're getting tired of being ruled over by the state of Massachusetts, which makes sense because no one wants to get ruled by Massachusetts at all. And then you have Missouri Compromise, and you have the relationship between the Speaker of the House, Henry Clay, and President James Monroe, which is contentious at best. And that doesn't happen today. Speaker of the House today is on great relations with the President of the United States. And you have the Panic of 1819, which a lot of banks failed, and the government's trying to bail them out. Well, that doesn't happen today either. So you have and cotton went down from 35 cents to 14 cents a pound. And that's where I am, and it's about 65% of the book right now, and it hopefully will be finished by this weekend. The next thing I'm reading is this book right here. This is bound volume of the Century magazine, and it runs from, let's see here, this volume runs from May to October of 1888. This is for the May is magazine month, which was started by Faith and Faith in Books. And I have read another one. This is a series of articles, and this one called Literary Life, written in 1901, December. I read a couple of articles here. So this one I will start. This Century magazine was started around 1883, I believe, and stopped publishing in 1930. It was produced by the Century Company. Take the place as Scribner magazine. And you have a lot of people writers and authors who published in this magazine excerpts of their first book, because you have Mark Twain in an earlier edition of the Century magazine who printed the excerpts of this book, Huckleberry Finn. So that one is worth some money. And this is a book. This is several stories here. This one here, called The Sheriff's Work on the Ranch, is, I hope you can see that because of the light. This one was a series of articles about the West, the American West. Was written by Theodore Roosevelt before he became vice president of McKinley and becomes president himself because of McKinley's assassination. This book is heavily illustrated by Frederick Remington. As you can see this picture here, and just goes on with different stories, and Patrick Remington illustrated it, and there's a couple more right here, and there's like, and he's written one in each month, so you have May, June, July, August, September, October, so it was 6 months to go. This one here, the first one is called Siberian, the Exile System. This was done by, let me see the author because it doesn't have him on the front page. This is a travelogue going through Russia. In 1881, the assassination of Alexander II and the exile of a large number of Russian revolutionists to the mines of Transbaikal increased my interest in Siberia. This is my desire not only to study the exile system on the ground, but investigations successfully be made, namely in the region to which the revolutionists themselves have been banished. So this is picture here of the boundary post, a map of Siberia, and a couple of other pictures of the way they were dressed at the time. And I gotta see when this was written. Excuse me, who wrote the article, excuse me. Because it escapes my mind at the moment. There is where I'm searching for that, there is a excerpt from a book by John C. Nicolay and John Hay, who were secretaries to Abraham Lincoln, and they titled it Abraham Lincoln, A History, and excerpts from that book: the border states, the advance, Bull Run, Fremont, military emancipation, Lincoln and McClellan, Tennessee and Kentucky, Mississippi and Shiloh, and plans of the campaign. Can't seem to find that person's name. There's an series of articles in here called The Graysons by a gentleman by the name of Edward Engleston. Engleston is Eggleston, and he's written several books on history. He's a historian, and he's not well known today, and he's written books on Montezuma, Christ and Art, books on the Lincoln, Illinois. He's written several other books, and I saw some of his books on Amazon Prime. You have several poems in here, a couple written by Walt Whitman and Emma Lazarus, Amanda James, Thomas Aldridge, and Thomas Wentworth Higginson. There's an article in here by Matthew Arnold, who's a poet. They give him the dedication of a window in England that was paid for by someone from Ohio, and he dedicates it to Milton, who wrote Paradise Lost. And there's a long article in here. There's talking about different cathedrals. You have one here called the Lincoln Cathedral, and there's a couple other cathedrals in here, which gives the plan. You see the plan of the cathedral and how it was built. George Keenan was the gentleman's name. He wrote this travel log about Russia and called Across the Russian Frontier, and about the ones who were tossed into Siberia by the Tsar. There's an interesting one called The Study of Regimental Losses in the Civil War, the chances of being hit in battle. And it just gives statistics. For instance, the 69th New York Infantry in the first Bull Run, 38 were killed, 59 wounded, and 95 were missing. There's one here called The Liar, which is by Henry James, and it's in 2 parts. This is part 1. And you have the Church of England and the colonies, history of the Church of England, the Anglican Church, no doubt, and a couple of pictures here, and there's the Boswell Johnson, Samuel Johnson, and yeah, and this is it's going to be very interesting to read, and I'll read some of this on my Mayors for Magazine video. And there's one called the Lichfield Cathedral. I'll give you an example of this. There's the diagram of the church right there, and there's the church right there, the cathedral, Lichfield Cathedral. And this is the nave in the West End. Picture of the nave in the West End. There's also articles in here on science. There's astronomy. There is birds. Here's one right here. It's called Bird Music, Song of the Western Meadowlark. And what's interesting here is that they actually give you these musical stanzas, like right here and right here, of how the meadowlark sings. And so this is going to be interesting. Interesting to go through, interesting to read, so I'll print some more of those on my upcoming videos. So thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment if you wish, and have a good weekend, BookTube.